Here's the brief. News from the world over this week. The evacuation of the remaining rebel fighters from Aleppo and thousands of civilians who supported them began in earnest on Thursday. Evacuations of the besieged city were back on track after a ceasefire deal unraveled amid fighting on Wednesday. Mediated by Turkey and Russia, the deal in effect marked the surrender of Aleppo by the U.S.-backed rebels to the government. It represents a major victory for Syrian President Bashar Assad in the 5.5-year-long Syrian war. Aleppo, once Syria's largest city and the center of Arab Spring protests against Assad in 2011, is now back in complete control of the Assad government after 4 years. ISIS has claimed responsibility for Sunday's bombing at a Coptic cathedral in Cairo. 25 people were killed in what was the deadliest attack on Egyptian civilians since a Coptic church bombing in Alexandria in 2011. The dead were mostly women and 6 children. The attack on what is the largest Christian church in Cairo and the seat of Egypt's Coptic Orthodox Church coincided with a national holiday marking the birth of Islam's prophet Muhammad. Coptic Christians comprise about 10% of Egypt's population. Back here in the U.S., President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet continues to take shape. For Secretary of State, Trump announced ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson as his pick at a rally on Tuesday. The president-elect touted Tillerson's acumen as a corporate executive and said he will be a fierce advocate for America's interest around the world.
Rex is one of the greatest and most skilled global business leaders of our time. Made some of the greatest deals ever made in the oil industry or any industry. A great diplomat, a strong man, a tough man.
Tillerson has led ExxonMobil since 2006. He was first recommended to the position last month by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Also this week, Trump selected former Texas governor and presidential candidate Rick Perry as his choice for Energy Secretary, and Montana Congressman Ryan Zink for Interior Secretary, and he fulfilled a campaign promise in Wisconsin on Wednesday.
I told my first crowd in Wisconsin that we're going to come back here someday and we are going to say Merry Christmas again. Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Evan.
Trump's Merry Christmas declaration comes as President Barack Obama sent out his 8th and final holiday card, which for the 8th time makes no mention of Christmas. His final card reads, "Happy Holidays, as our family reflects on our many happy years spent in the White House. We are grateful for the friends we've made, the joy we've shared, and the gifts of kindness we've received. We wish you and your loved ones a joyous holiday season and a wonderful new year." It's signed by the Obamas and their 2 dogs, Bo and Sonny. On Tuesday, Ohio Governor John Kasich vetoed a bill that would have forbidden abortions once a fetal heartbeat could be detected. Kasich said in his veto message that the heartbeat bill was unconstitutional under U.S. Supreme Court rulings and would have resulted in expensive court battles. If made law, the measure would have banned abortions after about 6 weeks. Proponents of the heartbeat bill immediately denounced Kasich's betrayal of life and promised to find the necessary votes to override his veto. Kasich did, however, sign into law a second bill, a GOP-backed lame duck measure banning abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy, providing an exception for saving the mother's life. The new abortion regulations will make it a 4th-degree felony for a physician to perform an abortion after 20 weeks if the fetus is viable. And a leading Vatican cardinal is weighing in on the need for clarification on Pope Francis's apostolic exhortation, Amoris Laetitia. Cardinal Paul Joseph Cordes, former head of the Pontifical Council Cor Unum, was asked about the widely reported dubia, questions posed by 4 cardinals seeking clarity directly from the Pope on whether his exhortation contradicts church teaching and allows remarried Catholics without an annulment to receive communion. The German cardinal explained how the church has addressed the issue of communion for divorced and remarried through the ages, concluding with the emphasis on conscience in Amoris Laetitia. Then he added, quote, "And now suddenly there has been supposedly found, after all, a magisterial solution." He went on to say that the theological foundation of such a permission is not at all compelling, and that the footnote that appears to allow such a practice, quote, "certainly does not have the status and rank of a dogma," end quote. More on this later in the show with one of the four cardinals who asked Pope Francis for clarification, Cardinal Raymond Burke. And it appears communion for remarried divorcees is a foregone conclusion for another leading German cardinal, Cardinal Walter Kasper. The Pope's lead proponent for communion for the divorced and remarried said that he hopes that Pope Francis's next declaration opens the way for shared Eucharistic communion with Protestants, but again, only in special cases. In an interview this past weekend, Cardinal Kasper expressed his wish for ecumenical progress in the form of intercommunion. Kasper would like to see the principle for remarried divorcees receiving communion under special circumstances applied to those in mixed marriages, Lutherans, for instance. And a group of Canadian bishops are citing Pope Francis and his exhortation, Amoris Laetitia, to open the possibility of sacraments for Catholics planning suicide. The Catholic bishops of the Atlantic territories are instructing their dioceses that people considering suicide deserve our compassionate response and respect. Although suicide is contrary to Christian morality, they note that the individual may be suffering from depression or other emotional difficulties that prevent a full consent of the will. Meanwhile, the Catholic bishops in another part of Canada, Alberta and the Northwest Territories, are also urging their pastors to show compassion and understanding, but they insist that they should be restricted, those individuals, from the sacraments because euthanasia is a grave sin. And for all of you Will Wilder fans out there, I was in New York recording the audio book for Will Wilder 2, The Lost Staff of Wonders. It's the second installment of my series featuring young Will. This time around, the staff of Moses goes missing from the Perilous Falls Museum, stalked by a new enemy as the plagues of the Old Testament strike Perilous Falls. It's up to Will, his friends, and Great Aunt Lucille to locate the staff before time runs out for all of them. Mark your calendars. It hits stores on March 7th, and you can pre-order now at Amazon.com, EWTNRC.com, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. And Will Wilder, The Relic of Perilous Falls, the first book, is still available everywhere, and it makes a wonderful present for the young adventurer on your list. Also, for those of you in Southern California, on January 9th, I'll be conducting a very special live conversation with best-selling author Dean Koontz, and you can attend. Tickets can be reserved now. Go to RaymondArroyo.com or my Facebook or Twitter pages for the link. See you all on January 9th with Dean Koontz. A fantastic evening in store.